Hello, welcome once again to a Honkai Star Rail build. In this case we are going to review the build for Firefly, the new character of the Path of Destruction and the Fire element. In this build we are going to divide the content into parts, skills, light cones, artifacts, and ornaments, and to finish the best companions for Firefly as well as what combinations can work. Now let's start with where we should talk first. Her skills, talent, and traces. I'm going to talk about her most important skills, which are the ones that provide the most damage to the character. So if I don't mention a specific skill, it's because it's not powerful enough to help the character increase her damage. Leaving that aside, let's start with her basic skill. If you need to read it, pause and do it. I'll wait for you. If you want a quick summary, it consumes her own life to regenerate a large part of its energy. It also does damage based on her attack. It's not much, because she doesn't do critical hits, so let's just take that consumes her life and regenerates energy. What the ultimate ability does is activate a state. On the ground, it enhances her basic attack and her basic skill. In addition to increasing her speed by 60 points, she also advances her action by 100%, and like Jing Yuan's Divine Knight or Robin's Concert, she has her own counter, which has 70 speed points. It is important to have a lot of speed so that she can make as many attacks as possible, in addition to having someone on the team with the speed set. Now let's talk about her talent. What she does is that the less HP you have left, less damage will be received. With the remaining 20% of HP, the damage reduction reaches the maximum, which is 40%. When the ultimate is active, the damage reduction remains at the maximum and the resistance to the effect it increases to 30%. If her energy is less than 50% when the combat begins, she regenerates energy up to 50%, and when it reaches the maximum, it eliminates all negative states in her. Her basic enhanced ability, what it does is recover 25% of her HP, also applies fire weakness to an enemy. This lasts 2 turns, and deals damage based on its breaking effect and its attack, and to the adjacent ones as well, in a smaller quantity. The maximum break effect is 360%. Her technique let her jump into the air for 5 seconds and finish with a ground attack that deals fire damage to all enemies and applies a fire weakness to them for 2 turns as well for each wave of enemies. Now we're going to talk about her best light cones. Just like in Boothel's video, we will use the same criteria, left best, right worst. So let's start with this. Let's talk about her cone. This is her best cone, obviously, but not by much. She takes advantage of everything, as it should be, but it is not so superior to the other options, gives us 60% break effect, and applies a status to enemies, which increases the break damage they receive and decreases their speed by 20%. Now in second place for me is Clara's light cone. Firefly takes advantage of everything from this cone. The attack increase it gives us, the damage increase it also takes advantage of, plus that micro healing, it increases her tank capacity. So in my opinion, this light cone is very good for Firefly. In third place would come the cone from Herta's store. This light cone is very good for Firefly since it increases her attack, and by breaking the weakness of an enemy, it increases her damage by 24% for 2 turns. She really takes advantage of it quite well, and being a 5-star cone, it gives a good base attack which increases the break effect that Firefly will have, since Firefly from 1800 attack converts every 10 points into 0.8% break effect, so it's useful at the end. Now in the next place in the 4 stars, the best cone is Mish's, which gives us a high breaking effect, the same base attack as Firefly's light cone, and 30 crit rate, which is not so important, but it slightly increases the damage she is able to do. Now lastly, the light cone from the Memory of Chaos store, Peps 1. This is decent since it gives us a good percentage attack, and when inflicting damage to an enemy with burn or bleed, the damage increases on 32% at S5, which is fine since we will do burn damage because Firefly is a fire element. Now it's time to get into the most complicated part. I'm not going to go into much detail with the artifacts and ornaments, so it will be quick. Best sets would be the new Glamoth one that ignores defense and increases the break effect, and by having 250% break effect, the Ultra Break ignores 15% defense that is added to the 10% it gives you, already having 150%. The other set would be the Meteoric Thief since it gives us a 32% breaking effect, and when breaking an enemy's weakness it gives us energy. Okay, but not as much as the previous one. The ornaments aren't really complicated either, as there are only 2 sets that really take advantage. The new one that gives speed 6%, and if the enemy has a weakness to fire and you hit him, increases the breaking effect by 40%. A bit of an abuse, but very specific for fire characters. And the other set is Talia's, which gives us a breaking effect, and if we reach 145 speed plus breaking, which is good but not incredible. Still, for the moment, until we find a set of the new ornaments, it may be fine. Now lastly, we are going to make the teams that take advantage of Firefly the most, taking into account that they have to give breaking effect, good sustain, and good speed. Let's start with the Hyperbreak core. Basically, Firefly, Ruin Mai, Trailblazer Harmony, and Gallagher. These 4 together can become one of the strongest Hyperbreak teams in the game. Then, as you like, the Triple Break Fire team is also suitable, although the damage drops a lot compared to the Hyperbreak team. And finally, remember that Firefly is a character that does not require much investment in terms of statistics, so don't stress if you don't get your best set on the first day. Over time you'll get better. Good luck on your pulls and see you at the next station.